Alright, you've made it to the last section of chapter 3. We're going to put all these things together now and look at order of operations to evaluate expressions with rational numbers. Before we begin the actual work, let's just do a quick review of what you hopefully have learned from chapter 2. Do you remember how to evaluate fractions that are raised to an exponent? Remember that rule where if I have a division statement, I can now apply the exponent to both the numerator and the denominator. So 2 over 3 squared becomes 2 squared over 3 squared, and that of course just becomes 4 over 9. What happens with negative? Well, remember, this is the same idea as negative 3/4 times negative 3/4. Or the idea here is you're going to square each thing. So you're going to square the 3, which is 9, square the 4, which is 16. But the negative also gets squared. So that's negative 1 times negative 1, which becomes positive. So your answer is positive 9/16. How about the last one? Negative 1/2 to the power of 3. We'll now take the negative 1 and raise that to the power of 3. And take the 2 and raise that to the power of 3. Negative 1 to the power of 3 is negative 1. 2 to the power of 3 is 8. And there you go. The answer here is negative 1/8. Recall also in grade 8 math, you also learned order of operations. Hope you remember that you always do brackets first, or parentheses. Then if they are exponents, we do them next. I'm going to highlight the E for you. Then we do multiplying and dividing. And this we do actually in order from left to right. So it's not like we always have to do multiplying first. It's multiplying or dividing, whichever comes first in the order from left to right. And similarly, when we have addition and subtraction, we once again do it in order from left to right. Okay? How do we remember this? Some of you know the acronym BEDMAS. I guess I prefer to write it like this. B, E, and then D and M are actually the same level. And A and S, once again, those are done in order from left to right. Okay, so it's the same when we're doing it with rational numbers. So let's take a look at some examples. We're going to be clear as to the order in which you carry out the operations, because I think that's important here. So let's begin and take a look at example 1A. Now look at the question. My question is, what do I see? What operations do you see? I hope you can see that there's a subtraction, and we also have a multiplication. So what do we do first? We do the multiplication. Okay. Now you may be thinking, Mr. Lee, there's a bracket there. You're right, but that bracket is only bracketing one item, so there's no operation inside the bracket we have to do. So that bracket is there just to help us identify that negative sign and have it applied to the fraction 2/5. So I'm going to keep the 1 1/3 as is, and now we're going to actually take care of this part right here. So what's 1/4 times negative 2/5? And once again, I'd like you to cross reduce. Hopefully you can see the 2 and the 4 cross reduce to 1 and a 2. And now we can simplify this. This just becomes 1 times negative 1, that's negative 1. And 2 times 5 is 10. I'm going to put a bracket around here just to help us with that negative. And now you've simplified this expression to the following. It's 1 1/3 take away negative 1/10. Of course, taking away a negative is the same thing as adding the opposite. So let's just change that to quickly add the 1/10. And now we just have an adding question to do here. So let's just add it up. But unfortunately, we have an improper fraction, or sorry, a mixed fraction, which we need to change to an improper fraction. So let's do that first. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. This is now 4/3 plus 1/10. And I guess I can now add these together by finding the common denominator. Hopefully you can see that this is 30. So this becomes 40. And then this becomes 3. So this is now 43 over 30. And we'll once again convert it back to a mixed fraction by just doing some division. 30 goes into 43 once. We'll subtract, and you'll get the answer of 1 and 13/30. Okay. So really this was a combination of a multiplication and a subtraction, which became an adding question. Okay, so let's try B. This time I'm going to ask you, what operations do you see? And I'm hoping you can answer a division. I'm hoping you can also answer brackets over here. I'm hoping you can see subtraction and also multiplication. So what should we do first? If you said brackets, you're correct. Now inside the brackets though, we have two operations, a minus and a times. So which one of those do we do first? And if you said multiply, you are correct. So let me just copy everything that we're not touching in red, and then the part that we are going to do, let's do that in black. So 2 minus, and here's the part we're going to do now, the actual multiplication. So let's go ahead and do 1/2 times 8 over 9. Once again, I will cross reduce. The 2 and the 8 become 1 and a 4. So I now have 1 times 4 is 4, and I have 1 times 9 is 9, and I can close the bracket. So what's next? You'd be thinking, yeah, I still have brackets. You're correct. So inside the bracket, I must do the subtraction. So let's go ahead and subtract. So once again, everything I'm not touching, I'm going to keep in red so you can see what's going on. And now that 2, I'm going to have to find the common denominator. This is like 2 over 1. So the common denominator between 1 and 9 is probably just 9. So 1 times 9 gives you 9. 2 times 9 gives you 18. So now what we've done now is taken the 2 over 1 and wrote that as 18 over 9. And now we can subtract. So once again, let's keep the negative 3/4 as is. Let's keep the division sign. And now what's 18 minus 4? That's 14. So this is now 14 over 9. Good. And now finally, what do we need to do? Well, I only see one operation now, so it's division. So when we divide, we can multiply by the reciprocal. So notice I did not rewrite the 14 over 9 as a mixed number. And that was on purpose because I knew I had to do the division. So let's go ahead and do this division now, which is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. And now, can I cross reduce anywhere? I don't think so. So let's just go 3 times 9, that's 27. And 4 times 14, that's 56. And this answer must be negative, since one of them is negative and the other one is positive. Whew. How are we feeling right now? Okay. I hope you're feeling okay about this, because we're going to try one more with fractions, and this one involves exponents. So let's turn the page. Oh, I see lots of brackets. I see exponents. I see lots of different things. Yikes. So, what do we do first? If you said brackets, you bet. I'm going to look inside the square bracket actually. And inside the square bracket here, I see a subtraction and I see a division. So what do I do first? I must do the division. So inside the bracket, let's do the division part first. So once again, I'm going to copy everything we're not dealing with yet in red. And the part that we are going to calculate, let's do that in black. So that's this part right here. Okay. Leave some space. Cute. Now I see division, and how do we deal with division? We can divide fractions by multiplying by the reciprocal. So I guess I'm going to now rewrite this as negative 4 over 45, and I multiply that by 5 over 1. And I'm going to do the multiplication here, which is the cross reducing. 5 and 45 become 1/9. And now we're going to simplify and get the following. So once again, everything I haven't done yet, I'm going to keep in red. But now the stuff in black becomes the number negative 4 over 9. Good. That was just the first step. Do we still have a bracket? Yes, we do. So I still have to do the stuff in the bracket. And in this case, the operation inside the bracket is the subtraction. So I'm going to do that part next, and that's this part right here. So once again, whatever I'm not dealing with, let's keep that in red. I'm subtracting here. I guess I should change that into an improper fraction. So 1 times 9 is 9. 9 plus 4 is 13. That's negative 13 over 9. The takeaway I can change to adding the opposite. So I'm going to add it to positive 4 over 9. And that's nice because I hope you can see that inside the bracket there, negative 13 plus 4 is just negative 9 over 9. Nice. And what's negative 9 over 9? That just simplifies to the lovely number negative 1. I like that. I like easy integers. And so now you're left with a few other operations. I see brackets, but those brackets are really just there to help you see the individual numbers, so they're not really brackets. I see exponents though, so I guess we should do those next. I also see addition. We're going to do that last. So what's 3/4 squared? Well, that means you have to square both numbers. Square the 3, which becomes 9. Square the 4, which becomes 16. I guess I should do it in black, eh? That's the stuff we're doing. 9 over 16. Negative 1 cubed, that just becomes negative 1. And now finally we're just adding, so 9 over 16 plus, I guess I should change this to a denominator of 16. This would be negative 16 over 16. 9 minus 16, what's that? I believe that's negative 7. So our answer is negative 7 over 16. Woo! Lots of steps. But once again, if you do this step by step, you should not go wrong. Alright, example number 2 involves decimals. The same kind of business. BEDMAS still rules here. But this time you get to use a calculator to help you with the decimals. So looking at part A, okay, which operation should we do first? I see plus, I see divide, I see squared, I see subtract. If you said the square part, you are correct. So let's go ahead and do this part here. Negative 0.2 squared. Negative 0.2 squared. That just becomes 0.04. Okay. So 2.5 plus negative 0.5 divided by, and this became 0.04. And then we still have a minus 1.56. So I see addition, division, subtraction. I hope you said that we should do the division next. So once again, I'll just put all the stuff we're not dealing with in red. Let's take now negative 0.5 and divide that by 0.04. Oops. And we get the number negative 12.5. So this becomes negative 12.5. And we're still going to have the minus 1.56 at the end. So now we have addition. We're adding the opposite here, so that just becomes 2.5 minus 12.5 minus 1.56. I guess I'll do the subtraction here first. 2.5 minus 12.5. Oops. Helps if you type it into your calculator correctly. That's negative 10 minus 1.56. So our final answer for this question is just negative 11.56. Good. Alright, one more for today, and then you're set to work on these questions yourself in class. This looks scary, especially because you have that bar. Now, when you have that bar, there are what we call the implied brackets. They're hidden. You don't see them. But they're there because really what we're asking you is, let's simplify the numerator first, and then let's simplify the denominator. And your last step here is to then divide. So I'm going to do this separately. I'm going to actually do the numerator first. Okay? And then I'll do the denominator. And then last but not least, then we'll do the dividing part. Okay? So, taking a look at the numerator, okay? I see a multiplication, I see a bracket, I see addition, I see cubing, I see addition. If you said we should do brackets first, I am so happy. Let me just leave the 7.2 as is, and let's simplify the stuff inside the bracket. So that would be negative 3.2 plus 5.3. That's just 2.1. Next up, how about cubing? So let's cube it. 2.1 cube. That's 9.261. So 7.2. Let's try to color code this as well. 7.2 times 9.261 plus 32. I see multiplication and addition, so I hope you can now do the multiplication first. 7.2 times 9.261, 66.6792. 66.6792, and we're going to add to that 32, and that gives us the answer of 98.6792. Now this is just our numerator. Okay, let's do the denominator. Now with the denominator, I see that we have division and subtraction. So just copying this out again, I guess I'll ask you, what should we do first? If you answered division, I'm happy. So let's go ahead and do this part first. Let's put it over here now, calculator. Negative 2.5 divided by 1.25. Oh, that's nice. That's just negative 2. And now we'll subtract. So negative 2 minus 0.25 is negative 2.25. There's our denominator. So really what we've done is we've taken this big expression now and we've made it to the following. It has become, the numerator is 98.6792, and we're dividing that by negative 2.25. And that's why I said division is our last step in this case, because really when you have a fraction like this, we have implied brackets. Do the numerator first, simplify it into one number. Do the denominator second, simplify that to one number, and then finally, as your last step, do the division. So 98.6792, we're going to divide that by negative 2.25. Ooh, it's a nasty number, but I did give you instructions to round to the nearest hundredth, so I believe negative 43.86 would be the final answer. Woo! Does your brain hurt right now? Yeah, it might, because there's a lot of steps, but once again, if you just keep track of things and do things slowly and not try to skip too many steps, I think you'll be fine.